Miss United States accusing a sitting congressman of revenge porn? According to new reports, Lindsey Langston filed a police report accusing Florida Representative Cory Mills of threatening to release nude images and videos of her. And now, the report has been sent to the investigative law enforcement agency for the entire state, the FDLE. What does this mean for Mills? Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Now, you know we don't get really political here on Sidebar, but I gotta say, when serious legal allegations are leveled against the politician, how can we not cover this, right? And it concerns not only a politician, but a Miss United States. Have you ever heard of Cory Mills? The 45-year-old United States representative from Florida, represents the state's 7th congressional district, the area between Orlando and Daytona Beach. Well, his ex-girlfriend, 2024 Miss United States winner, 26-year-old Lindsey Langston, who was also a Republican state committee member, reportedly told police that Mills threatened to release sexually explicit images and videos of her. This is per an apparent police report that she filed with the Columbia County Sheriff's Office in Florida on July 14th. Essentially, what we're talking about is an allegation of revenge porn. Now, more specifically, the report reads that Mills contacted Langston, quote, numerous times on numerous different accounts, threatening to release nude images and videos of her, to include recorded videos of her and Cory engaging in sexual acts. Now, according to the Times, she also provided screenshots of their messages to authorities. The two apparently dated from November 2021 to February 2025, and he allegedly made the threats after they broke up. The Times reports that Mills also allegedly made comments about potentially harming future romantic partners of hers. By the way, the reason for the breakup was because apparently Mills had been accused of being involved in an alleged assault out in Washington with respect to another woman. The police report stated Lindsey confronted Cory about the woman, to which Cory told her he was not in a romantic relationship with her, and the press fabricated the story. Lindsey then found a social media account for the other woman and saw posted photos of her with Cory. Now, to be clear, he was never charged in that case. Mills denied that anything like that happened, and it's our understanding that this woman retracted her allegations. By the way, speaking of responding, Congressman Mills said in a statement to ABC News, these claims regarding Langston, these claims are false and misrepresent the nature of my interactions. And he also accused a former Florida primary opponent of, quote, weaponizing the legal system to launch a political attack against the man who beat him. What is that about? Well, it has been reported that prior to filing her police report, Miss Langston actually sought advice from an attorney, Anthony Sabatini, who ran against Mills in the 2022 Republican primary. Now, Sabatini confirmed this to The Hill. In a statement to The Hill, Mills took aim at Sabatini, quote, Anthony Sabatini is weaponizing the legal system to launch a political attack against the man who beat him in the primary, using his corporate legal office to push a narrative built on lies and flawed legal arguments, all to score political headlines. We have not been made aware of any report or allegations from law enforcement or the alleged complainant. These claims are false and misrepresent the nature of my interactions. I have always conducted myself with integrity, both personally and in service to Florida's 7th District. Out of respect for the legal process, I won't comment further at this time. My team and I will fully cooperate to ensure the truth is made clear. I remain focused on serving my constituents and advancing America First policies. I appreciate your understanding as we deal with this private matter and your support during this time. Got to thank Upside for their support because it helps make episodes like this happen. Now, Upside is great. It is a free app that gets you cash back when you buy daily essentials. So I pump my gas, I can use Upside. Go out to lunch, I can use Upside. Go to a convenience store, I can use Upside. And why not get cash back when I do all these things, right? This is real, actual cash back. It's money that appears in your Upside app that you transfer right into your bank account. So once you have the free Upside app, you claim an offer for whatever you're buying on Upside. You pay as usual using a debit or credit card. You follow the steps on the app, you get paid. So to find out how much you can earn, click the link in the description to download Upside or scan the QR code on screen. But make sure to use our promo code SIDEBAR because you'll get an extra 25 cents back on every gallon on your first tank of gas. Hope you can check it out. So what happens? You think it ends right there? No. Why? So Sabatini goes online, goes on social media, and he seemingly posts the purported messages between Mills and Langston. Here's one. Langston writing, or purportedly writing, please leave me alone. Mills responds, okay, Linz, get me his number and I can send him videos. Take care. There's also this one. Mills purportedly writing, I'm sorry to see this is how you treat things. Good luck to you. Thanks again for the videos. Langston responds, haven't you hurt me enough? And then there's these series of apparent texts from Mills. Send it, you know mine, and feel free to share my number. Let him put his actions behind his mouth. I can send him a few videos of you as well. Oh, I still have them. And along with the screenshots Sabatini posted on X. Justin, 3 of the disturbing text messages in which Cory Mills sent threatening to sexually exploit and sexually blackmail a young woman have been released. Mills lied and said these text messages didn't exist. Here are some of the many extremely disturbing messages. These are a criminal violation of Florida's sexual extortion statute, 836.05, a second-degree felony. Now, according to The Hill, this is significant. Columbia County Sheriff's Office spokesperson Stephen Katchigan stated that the police report was forwarded to the Florida Department of Law Enforcement for further review, and the FDLE apparently confirmed it has received the report, with their spokesperson, Casey Smith, saying FDLE does not comment on any active inquiries or investigations. Okay, let me bring on an expert, not only a legal expert, but somebody who is from Florida, who was in politics. Great insight into this. Former Palm Beach County State Attorney Dave Aronberg, who is now a private attorney, and he's also a host. Dave, where can the people see you before we start?
Thanks for having me back, Jesse. I just started as a contributor to MK True Crime. That is Megyn Kelly's new true crime network. You can see that everywhere. Check it out. Also, I'm a contributor to Legal AF. So I've got channels on both sides of the political spectrum. And my favorite show, of course, is yours.
Well, that's just only because you're on here and I have to say that. But listen, honestly, congratulations. That's great. Everybody wants to hear what Dave has to say, including me. So, referred to the FDLE, what does that mean and what do they do behind the scenes?
The FDLE is the statewide law enforcement agency. It has jurisdiction throughout the state, but you have to have a crime that occurs over 2 or more judicial circuits. And you go to FDLE when it involves public officials because oftentimes there's a conflict when you're dealing with local law enforcement and a local congressman. So you go to the more seemingly objective agency in Tallahassee. They're based out of Tallahassee. They're run under the governor's auspices. So that's why you go there. Now, it is true that there is a rivalry between the congressman and Anthony Sabatini. Sabatini is very well known in Florida politics. He's a very right-wing Republican who will upset the traditional Republicans, even the MAGA folks. He will go after anyone, and he gets under a lot of people's skin, especially fellow Republicans. So I'm not surprised.
Let me tell you, does it matter if he posts the receipts? If he's posting these messages, what do you think those messages show? How bad are they?
No. People lie, but those messages don't, right? I mean, there's no allegation that they're doctored, so they are what they are. I just provide this as context. It does provide the congressman with a political argument that this is just political retribution, but he seems to have the receipts, and the receipts would show that there is a threat of what we call revenge porn. Now, Florida law does criminalize revenge porn. You can't put out naked pictures of an ex to get back at them. But in this case, the congressman is not alleged to have done so. It's the threat. And the revenge porn law in Florida does not criminalize the threat. It only criminalizes the dissemination. What is a crime is cyber stalking. That could be a third-degree felony, punishable by up to 5 years in prison. So that's what may be implicated here.
Well, let's talk about the law in a second, because I wonder if you can get attempted, right? Attempted as an attempt charge. But putting that to the side for a second, the FDLE, do they have resources that the sheriff's office doesn't have? And B, is it because you are dealing with a well-known figure, Cory Mills, that it's being referred to them or not? Now, I believe that their spokesperson, the sheriff's spokesperson, said that it's not because of that. This is just their standard investigation because given the allegations, it would make more sense for the FDLE to handle. But what resources does the FDLE have? And what do you think? Do you think it's because you're dealing with an elected politician here?
I do. I actually think that does have something to do with it. And I mentioned this earlier. When you have local law enforcement, there are probably lots of conflicts with the local congressman. And so they farm it out to FDLE. It's understandable. It's probably the right move. FDLE does have better resources than some of the smaller counties. So perhaps they do have better resources than the county here. But this really is given to FDLE because of the conflict, because of the big names involved. And I think that's why they're going to be doing the investigation.
The police report happened in July. He hasn't been charged. What does that tell you? It's just that he won't be charged? What are they looking at? Is it significant that there's been no charges? What do you think?
Jesse, it was referred in July, the police report in July, and it's now August. Have you ever seen government work? That's not slow. That's normal, man.
You were a government worker yourself.
I used to be. I'm a recovering government worker. Yes, it's government. The fact that it was just referred a month ago doesn't mean that they're sitting on it, doesn't mean that charges are not going to be filed. They're looking at it, and it just takes a while when you're dealing with government.
Can they get a warrant? And if they do, would it be for his phone? Would it be for his house? What do you think the next step would be? Let's say we're not looking necessarily at criminal charges, but if they're going to investigate, what is the next stage of investigating? Is it a warrant?
It could, yeah. They could seek a warrant. You got to get it through a judge, and then probable cause that a crime has occurred and that evidence of a crime is on that device. I think you hit it when you talk about the phone. That is where allegedly the evidence would be. I mean, I don't know if they're going to search the congressman's home, but perhaps they will look at his phone. They want to talk to him, I would think. Of course, he has his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. So generally talking to him would be the last thing they do, but they could try to talk to him. They could talk to other witnesses. They could go back to the victim and see if she has any more information that has not been produced, that Anthony Sabatini has not provided to the public. Maybe there's more out there. So there's still some investigation to be done, but this is very sensitive because you're dealing with a congressman and any charges against him would become huge news. And that's why they're being very careful, because once you release the hounds, it's not easy to put them back in the kennel.
And it does matter if he actually has these images and videos like he allegedly claims to have had, which is why I want to go to now, what could he potentially be charged with? So Sabatini had mentioned in that post extortion. I looked up extortion under Florida law. I actually looked up the one that he had cited. It says, whoever, either verbally or by a written or printed communication, maliciously threatens to accuse another of any crime or offense, or by such communication maliciously threatens an injury to the person, property, or reputation of another, or maliciously threatens to expose another to disgrace, or to expose any secret affecting another, or to impute any deformity or lack of chastity to another, with intent thereby to extort money or any pecuniary advantage whatsoever, or with intent to compel the person so threatened or any other person to do any act or refrain from doing any act against his or her will, commits a felony of the second degree. Is that what this is?
Well, what is the act that the congressman is allegedly trying to compel?
I mean, I don't really know. I don't really know what I don't know. Something to do with their relationship, maybe something to do with somebody else. But in those messages, if those messages are really from him, they're characterized and they're colored as a way, do this, I have this, I have this. I guess the question is he trying to coerce her to do something? Is he just making a statement on its face? There is room there to defend it against saying it's extortion.
Right. And that's why I don't think extortion necessarily is the strongest charge here. I think if there is a criminal charge, it probably is more likely to be cyber stalking. It's not. You
want me to talk about that?
Yeah, let's talk about that.
This is called sexual cyber harassment. 784.049, a person depicted in a sexually explicit image taken with the person's consent may retain a reasonable expectation that the image will remain private despite sharing the image with another person, such as an intimate partner. It is becoming a common practice for persons to publish a sexually explicit image of another to internet websites or to disseminate such an image through electronic means without the depicted person's consent, contrary to the depicted person's reasonable expectation of privacy for no legitimate purpose, with the intent of causing substantial emotional distress to the depicted person. And it goes on to say, sexually cyber harass means to publish to an internet website or disseminate through electronic means to another person a sexually explicit image of a person that contains or conveys the personal identification information of the depicted person without the depicted person's consent, contrary to the depicted person's reasonable expectation that the image would remain private for no legitimate purpose, with the intent of causing substantial emotional distress to the depicted person. Evidence that the depicted person sent a sexually explicit image to another person does not, on its own, remove his or her reasonable expectation of privacy for that image. Sexually explicit image means any image depicting nudity or depicting a person engaging in sexual conduct, except as provided in paragraph B. A person who willfully and maliciously sexually cyber harasses another person commits a misdemeanor of the first degree, punishable as provided. Now, we talked before about completing the act or not. Couldn't there be potentially a charge of attempted cyber harassment?
The statute you read is the revenge porn statute. I don't think that is as relevant here as the cyber stalking statute because the act was never accomplished. The dissemination never occurred. And in that statute, it doesn't say anything about threatened release of the pictures. So I don't see the threatened release as a crime. It's not an attempted cyber revenge porn. He didn't attempt to do it. He didn't do it. I think if you're going to charge him with a crime, probably is more along the lines of perhaps cyber stalking, which is a different statute in Florida.
Cyber stalk means to engage in a course of conduct to communicate or to cause to be communicated directly or indirectly words, images, or language by or through the use of electronic mail or electronic communication directed at or pertaining to a specific person, or to access or attempt to access the online accounts of an internet-connected home electronic system. Don't think that's what it is, but it's causing substantial emotional distress to that person and serving no legitimate person. A person who willfully, maliciously, and repeatedly follows, harasses, or cyber stalks another person commits the offense of stalking, a misdemeanor of the first degree. There's a threat one, too. A person who willfully, maliciously, and repeatedly follows, harasses, or cyberstalks another person and makes a credible threat to that person commits the offense of aggravated stalking. And that's a felony of the third degree.
Correct. So that's big trouble. That's punishable by up to 5 years in prison. But here's the thing. You got to prove in a course of conduct, not just a one-off, not just a single isolated incident. So you've got to show that this is ongoing, that he threatened to release these pictures. And if you can show that it was a course of conduct and that it caused her great substantial emotional distress, then yes, I think that would be the most relevant statute here.
What about federal law? I know there's this Take It Down Act, which I understand makes it a federal crime to knowingly share or threaten to share these kinds of images and videos, including, by the way, AI-generated images that depict real people. And it clarifies that consent to create an image doesn't mean consent to share it. Do you think it rises to a federal crime?
And the fact that this is being investigated by state agencies tell you it's not going to be prosecuted at the federal level. This is an alleged state crime. It's a state investigation. And if the feds really were interested, they would take this over. When the feds call, the state generally stands down. That hasn't happened here, apparently. So I think it's better to focus on the state law.
If he isn't charged, that doesn't mean that her police report is false, per se. It just means it doesn't rise to the level of a crime?
That's correct. Doesn't mean that she's lying. It doesn't mean that it's false. It just means that the law enforcement agency doesn't have probable cause of a crime. Or it could mean that the prosecutors were involved and the prosecutors could say, we don't believe we can get a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. There may be a defense that is valid or semi-valid. It's a different standard. When law enforcement wants to make an arrest or do a notice to appear, they need probable cause. But when prosecutors file a charge, they need more. Can we get a conviction beyond a reasonable doubt? And sometimes when the law enforcement officers go to the prosecutor and say, it's up to you on this one, the prosecutors say, yeah, we have probable cause. We don't have what we need, the extra. So no charges here. Doesn't mean anyone's innocent. Just means the evidence does not sustain the charge.
By the way, according to NBC News, Sabatini claims that Langston filed a petition for a restraining order against Mills, which is reportedly pending before a judge. And NBC News now has indicated they haven't reviewed the petition for a restraining order. But if that's true, is that hard to get? I mean, what goes into getting that? Is that a high bar? And how does that affect the investigation?
It won't affect the criminal investigation because it's not a criminal matter. And as state attorney, we were not involved with getting restraining orders. That was on the civil side. Generally, you have to show dating violence or repeat violence, real fear, real threats. It's not as easy to get as people think. But if one is issued, that's going to be a lot of trouble for the congressman. That would make him look really bad in the court of public opinion at the very least, but it won't affect the criminal investigation.
Could he be expelled from Congress?
Sure, it's possible, but you have to be George Santos to get expelled from Congress. I mean, you got to really...
You got to need a 2/3 vote.
Yeah, they're not going to expel someone for an allegation, or I don't think they'll even expel him for a criminal charge. I think if he's found guilty, then they would move for expulsion. Cory Mills is someone who is liked amongst the Republican leadership, so they're not going to take action against him until he's convicted of a crime.
And if he's not convicted, if he's not charged, and this is now making the news, what are his legal options? Could he file a lawsuit against Sabatini and Langston? Or is this, look, she has a right to file a police report. He can't sue her for defamation or something like that?
Oh, he is not going to file a civil lawsuit, because if he files that civil lawsuit, he would have to sit for deposition under oath, and then they can get into all this stuff. and truth is a defense. And so he could threaten to do so, but in the end, even if he files a defamation action, that thing will never move forward because he doesn't want to get into this. It's not good for him or anyone to be dealing with discovery. He wants this probably to
Good point.
Get buried as fast as possible.
And look, he has a lot of baggage right now. So there was that investigation into alleged assault, NBC reporting that an arrest warrant was sent to the interim U.S. attorney at the time, but it was left unsigned. And as I mentioned, both he and the woman connected to the event denied that any assault happened. He's facing an eviction lawsuit apparently in Washington over allegations he didn't pay rent, $85,000, claims he never actually got the link to pay the rent. So that's been an allegation too. And then this outlet Notice reported on possible issues regarding a military service award he received. He's an Army combat veteran, and there were reports that the House Ethics Committee was looking into him regarding certain financial disclosures he made. So this is just, at the very least, another legal headache he's got to be thinking about. But listen, Dave Aronberg, thank you so much for coming on. It was great seeing you, and congratulations on the new gig.
Thank you, Jesse. Always great to be with you, my friend.
And that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Everybody, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, please subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you should get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.